Picture this, two guys trapped in the South Charleston Public Library. One guy loves movies, the other, well, he'd rather be watching reality TV. Can they survive each other's films? Find out on Real Opposites, a library podcast about movies, hosted by Josh and Aaron from the South Charleston Public Library.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Real Opposites podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
And we're back to discuss Tobey's picks from last week. Say hello, Tobey.
Hello.
And it was Vampire Hunter D and Hero.
Yes. Okay, so Hero is a Chinese movie from 2002. It was one of the highest grossing foreign language films in the U.S. for a long time, right up there with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It features Jet Li as a hero by the name of Nameless, and the story is based on a true story that happened in China's history somewhere around 270 AD, because China has the longest written history of any country in the world. Their written history is over 3,000 years old. That's crazy. Which is pretty crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I guess I want your opinions. So
all right.
Start with Josh, I suppose.
Oh,
Y'all
okay.
We should.
Whichever way.
So Hero came out when I was really into any kind of Asian cinema. There was a period there where mostly what I watched was foreign films, and Crouching Tiger came out in 2000, and so by the time Hero came out, and it was like Quentin Tarantino presents Hero too, so he was kind of bringing it to the U.S. in a way. And I remember I liked the movie. I still like the movie. I think I find it, because it is kind of like a take on Rashomon, the Kurosawa film, where it's like you have three different stories being told by three different people. It's the same story, but just from three different perspectives. This one is mostly told by one person, but it still kind of has, he's telling like different versions of the story. So it's somewhat similar to Rashomon. And, the movie, it's beautiful. The lighting, camera work, the color. I've always, and even still now, I find the movie kind of clinical. It's very
methodical.
Methodical. Yeah.
I'd agree with that. They have a lot of, I think a lot of thought was put into the movie, almost to the point of it is like an artistic expression instead of like a movie. They wanted these specific scenes, these specific feelings, and it's almost like a story more than it is like a film.
Yeah.
And I think also the method of storytelling is a little different than what we're used to in like American cinema.
I think it's because it can be kind of difficult to identify with anyone, like any main character, because it feels like they're less like a character that you can see existing in a world and more like a...
They're an archetype.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're more just like a story point,
Right.
It's less of a being able to identify with the character than it is.
They're just part of the story that's being told, basically. Yeah. And I think that also part of the not being someone you can relate to type of thing is because they are part of the story that's being told, because it's all told through basically one person's point of view, which is Nameless.
Yeah.
And in the story and throughout the movie, we do find out that like what you originally know about them isn't what it actually is. And so I think not only is it you can't relate to them because they're part of the story, but it's because their character is actually changing due to his story that he's telling, which is partly a lie, and then you find out the truth. So it's not like you can really latch on to someone when their character is changing.
Yeah, I think that's where it kind of differs from like Rashomon, where it's the same basic story. It's just seeing it from different perspectives. So you get to see how someone feels versus how someone who's telling the story tells you how they feel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas this one, because it just has one narrator for, for all the characters, they can kind of feel one note in a way.
That is definitely a thing that I think could turn some people off from
like
the film.
me.
But I think that it is a thing that makes this different. than a lot of. I've never really seen. I haven't seen a lot of films that approach the story as these characters exist only within basically
Like a story within a story.
Yeah, basically
kind of
within
thing.
the mind of this person, and then I kind of like that limited storytelling. I feel like it is something, like I said, that could turn people off from the film because they don't like you don't really feel attached to the characters because you can't, because you don't
Right.
know what is real about them and what is like
Part of the story that he's telling.
yeah, and they're effectively like folk heroes in their time anyway. So it's
Yeah.
like what part of it is just the mythos of who they are.
I kind of feel like some of it's like they're not really given like a lot of identifiable traits.
True.
They all just might as well be like statues in a mausoleum. Like
Right.
they're not really. And I don't know if like that's because like it's like it is a folk tale. The film in a way is like a propaganda film for the Chinese government because it was
Yeah.
heavily financed by the Chinese government. And like at the end of the movie, it's the emperor is basically God in the story.
Right.
And, I mean, even Nameless is coming up. I mean, he might as well be, going into Valhalla or heaven because he's having to march
Trying
through
to
all
do
this.
good to get closer and closer.
Each pace gets closer to, to God. I mean, he's trying to kill God.
Right.
But by the end, it's like he gives himself to the country because God says it's okay.
Yeah, because he kind of became good. I think it's almost like Nameless realized because he kind of turns the Emperor like
Yeah, Nameless doesn't change his decision until he's sitting there.
right,
Yeah.
and it's because the Emperor seems to be different than what he expected. I think.
I think it's also because the Emperor knows his people. So Nameless walks in expecting him to buy the lie
Right.
of
He definitely doesn't.
like this is what happened with Broken Sword and Moon, and here's how I got their swords,
Right.
and like they were these kind of people. And the Emperor, instead of being like, yes, my enemy is scum, recognize it like is like my enemy is not scum.
Right.
Like they are respectable and worthy of respect, and this is not them. And I kind of enjoy. It's like I think that's the moment that his resolve starts to falter, because it does not falter until basically that point. Even when Broken Sword is trying to talk him into not killing the Emperor.
I mean, I think so. On the other flip of the coin.
So Aaron hated this movie.
Yeah. So no. Okay. So on the flip of the coin, I do get the story, and I actually appreciated the way it was told through one person, but it was so boring for me. I could not. It was very difficult to watch, and part of it is he would talk, and then you'd go into these scenes, and the scenes it would be like, okay, they're getting ready to sword fight. This is going to be exciting. But then
they're
the sword
dancing.
fight was like 30 minutes long, and I don't have the attention span for that. It would need to be like 5 minutes long. Now I will say that especially the first one, when he's fighting
When he's fighting Donnie Yen.
Yeah,
when he's
Donnie.
fighting Sky, and there was a scene I really liked. It's probably the only thing I liked, and it was the scene with the rain.
Yeah.
When it's raining and they're doing the slow-mo, and you can see like the rain hitting their face
Yeah.
and hitting their sword.
That's
I
my
thought that
favorite
was-
scene in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
It's
We agree on something.
What's neat about that is it's a fight in their head.
Yeah.
Like it's
right.
all in a dream
Right, yeah, the fight's
sequence,
not even
basically.
happening.
Yeah.
And then the actual fight is over in like
Right.
one hit.
Right.
'Cause
And
then
I
they're
would have
like, yeah.
I would have been able to pay attention to the one-hit fight.
Yeah.
But the 30 minutes of this fight, now, like I said, has a beautiful scene that I really liked. But other than that, man, I just could not follow this movie.
You don't enjoy the wire foo with
Yeah,
the dance fight sequences? I mean, it's fine. You don't have to
it
enjoy them,
wasn't-
but I think that they're neat.
No, it wasn't that it wasn't that what was happening was bad. It was that it was too long for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, had it been like a 2-minute wire whatever fight, that would have been fine. Also, yeah, sometimes I think that stuff is so ridiculous that I can't pay attention to it.
The wuxia films, which is like the term that they use for basically wire fu kind of.
Oh, okay.
They're my least favorite like martial arts kind
Yeah?
of movies because it's like sometimes they can implement it very well, but in general, it's the weightlessness
Right.
is just kind of takes me out of the film.
Yeah.
That's what it did for me in this one.
And I think like they've gotten better with the wire work, so I think they use gimbals instead of actually wires anymore for a lot of this stuff, and then they just paint it out in post. But back then it was like it's very obviously. I mean, it's the same thing in Crouching Tiger when they're like dancing through the trees and everything. It's beautiful, but it's. I mean, I like Crouching Tiger a lot more, so I can forgive it easier.
Yeah.
But
Never seen it.
Oh, it's great.
I do agree. Like some of the stuff goes on, like all the arrows, the arrows scene where they're attacking the calligraphy
Oh, yes.
classroom. I guess I don't know.
See, I
could've
prefer
just
the
been, like,
wire
shorter.
flu to the CGI in that scene. Like, I don't love
Yeah, the
her,
CGI is
like,
real iffy.
swirling. So the way
Oh,
that
when they're on the top of the roof.
Yeah, and they're like
Yeah.
deflecting all the arrows.
the way I think about it, and so therefore kind of forgive it, is I think about like, so what if you're making a high fantasy film in American studios? So you have magic that people use. And essentially, the way that wuxia films are structured, their martial arts are so advanced that it is effectively magic, and that's why they can fly, is the idea. Kind of this feeling of like the ethereal, which, like I said, I enjoy it because it's not something that we see regularly, but I can definitely see it taking you, if you wanted like a grounded wartime story, which this could have been,
Which I don't even want that.
then it would definitely pull you out of that. Or like if you wanted something that felt more realistic, like what is it? 13 Assassins? Is that the one I'm thinking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a great movie, and they don't really use wire fu. They use like a
Yeah,
lot.
that's a
the only
samurai,
character that really
so
gets it's a samurai movie.
It's more sword fighting.
Yeah.
But a good one, if it's still wuxia and there's still wire fu, but it's a little bit more like hard hitting and grounded, is Iron Monkey. That's a fantastic
I've heard
film.
of that. I've never seen it.
It's also got Donnie Yen, who plays Sky. He's the main character, and it's fantastic. It's my favorite wuxia film, easily.
I don't see myself ever watching
I
one
know you
again,
won't,
but
just saying, just in case.
and that's what I say. Like it's just not my type of film.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to pay attention to. But it is some of the. I mean, the acting was good. The story is good. I enjoyed the idea behind the story. It was just too much. Like too much flying around. Too much like wall kicking off of a roof.
Yeah.
And I'm just like that.
This is impossible.
It takes me out of it. I think it just. And then the scene where they are on top, which I think is what you were referring to with CGI, and they're just like deflecting the.
Yeah,
I found that scene. I thought it was supposed to be like this epic scene, is how they presented it, but I just felt like it was kind of
I think
Well, you're not
lackluster
supposed to
and
believe
not
it,
that
though.
exciting.
That's the thing. It's like it's a lie.
Yeah, it looks like one.
Yeah, exactly. maybe that was the choice, right?
Right,
Like, maybe
right, and I guess
this
that
is,
makes
like,
sense.
The choice of this is not
that's
real.
true. No, that's really true, because aside from that scene is the main fanciful segment, because generally the fight with him and Sky in the beginning, it's there's a little bit of wire work, but it's generally pretty grounded and just sword, and he has a staff.
And that's what I say. I appreciate that in a story and how they're using that to be like, look, it's in their head.
Well, I don't
So
know.
this stuff-
the
he's
Green
just-
World fight where they're fighting where they're walking on water effectively is also kind of
a lot
out there.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But it's all part of the
it
lie.
That's
looks
part of
real,
the
though.
Right.
Yeah, because he's elevating their characters,
and that's
in
what I
the
said. It's
mind of
not.
the
It's not so much
emperor.
that I'm tearing down the movie itself or the idea behind it. I like the idea behind it. It's just boring.
Yeah.
To me, like it was just too stretched out, and it's just too not grounded to also be stretched out. That I just, it was rough for me.
So, what did you think of the use of color in the film?
I guess I didn't really notice it used color differently than.
How do you not notice the
that?
colors?
What do you mean?
So, like,
it had color like the rest of the
No,
movie.
every scene in the film, like every segment of story, is all told in monochromatic colors. So there is the Black World, which is essentially where the fight with Sky takes place, and the Emperor and everything between him and the Emperor is all in this like really stark black, gray, and red.
I didn't notice that when I was watching it.
And then, wow.
I mean,
I
mean, like, I noticed it, like, now that you're saying it, but I didn't realize that was, like, a
Yeah.
a choice and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so
Yeah,
everything that happens.
Remember the part where I said I could not pay attention?
I do remember
so.
this. And then
But
there's the red world.
That's
like
the paint
it's the
or where they were
that's where they're
calligraphy.
in the calligraphy room, but it's also the lie about flying snow and broken sword
Yes.
being like
And
this couple
Moon.
that are that have all of these issues and they're like petty,
Right, yeah, 'cause
backbiting, like kind of
Right.
And then Moon is portrayed as like Snow's rival,
Yeah.
when in reality she's just Broken Sword's apprentice. At that point in the story is where the Emperor starts to take issue. Then there is the blue world, which is like Snow's moment of like self-sacrifice, basically. And then there's white, and then there is green. And the only like two that are kind of grounded in reality really are the black world and the white world. The style of filmmaking changes almost completely between those two and the others.
Yeah.
When those color theories are being used, that's like real, and everything else is altered in some kind of way,
Fantasy.
which is interesting. The white world.
Yeah,
is
and I
where all the
mean,
big
now that you're
sad
talking
stuff
about it,
happens.
I can think back and be like, okay, yeah, I see that. I see the use of red, but it just no. I mean, during the movie,
didn't
that
notice
did
it.
not click.
It's okay.
I mean, during the movie, I probably was just like, how much longer?
yeah, and it's that's fair.
So sorry.
I don't know. So I feel like Josh might have some opinions on the use of color, so I'll let Josh.
No, I mean, I think you summarized it very well. Like the black and the white is the real world. Because, black and white's good and evil.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the fantasy segments are
The more colorful.
very colorful greens and reds.
Yeah.
And, the red is a lie. So red is a strong color. And the green's used in like when they're floating on water stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's more serene.
Yes, it's supposed to be like a peaceful, like growth kind of
Yeah.
moment. It's interesting. Like white in many Asian cultures is what you wear white to a funeral instead of black because of like more widespread beliefs in like reincarnation and stuff. So white is a symbol of rebirth. So the moment where Broken Sword is injured and Snow like shoves the sword through both of them, essentially in the film it's meant to symbolize like this struggle has passed away and
Right.
now peace has arrived. And so it's like this like moment of like rebirth, like the Emperor's ultimate goal, I guess, in the context of the story is to
Unite all
unite
right.
everyone. Of course, that's by conquering all of them, which is,
that's
this
is what I'm getting into, like with the film being kind of like the Chinese version of like Triumph of the Will, like where they're showing that the emperor, the government is all knowing and
Right.
is right all the time. And I mean, there's definitely like layers, and the reason that Nameless gives his life is because he sees that the emperor is more compassionate, more than he thought he was going to be, and a little smarter. The same, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's making excuses for genocide.
Yeah, and I mean, it's making excuses for what is effectively, in that context, colonization.
Yeah.
Of kind of, they talk about having one spoken language to keep.
Yeah,
like to make
right.
things consistent, and it's like yes, but that means stripping away the language of the people who were there before.
Right.
And that is the thing that like Snow can never forgive. Even though the love of her life is very pro Emperor, she kills him, tears her apart to do it, and she ends up killing herself.
Yeah.
She is like essentially the spirit of Zhao, like of the country that's being conquered, and she cannot. And that is, I think that is the one bit of almost acknowledgement that we get for them, but then she gives up in her own way, and that's a very sad moment.
Which, by the way,
Kind of a weird.
this is like a war movie, and that's another kind of movie I don't like. Just throw that out there for future podcasts.
I'll definitely pick Apocalypse Now then. At some point.
Not a war movie fan either. I find them very boring.
Well, you said that you liked the gray scene from the beginning with their fight.
I like
that
the
setup.
rain
The
spot.
rain setup. Okay.
I liked it for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Not for the 5 minutes
For the
that it happened.
full thing.
I just really like
what-
the actual visual of the rain and the slow-mo and it hitting their face and it hitting their blade.
I
Also just like rain.
Yeah,
like
there's some
I
beautiful
find
shots.
the movie. I mean, it probably bored you to tears.
Yeah.
But it's very calming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
More like bored me to sleep.
it's like
It is a calming movie about like a weirdly violent conflict.
yeah,
It's pretty.
Yeah,
I
it's-
think it's a pretty movie.
it is.
I couldn't see it. My eyes were closed.
That's okay. I would like for you though to go back and just like watch some clips from the scene so you can see the color.
Yeah, that's
No,
what
I-
I don't
no, I-
like. How do you not notice the colors?
I did.
Okay,
But I guess I didn't think
about
about
'em?
it. I'm not somebody that watches a movie and like thinks about it while it's happening.
in the
I don't
future,
know.
Aaron, when you watch movies, think of the color
Okay.
and what it's representing.
Well,
Well, I mean,
also in the future when you're looking at movies, go remember that color means different things to different cultures.
Yeah.
As well. So if you're watching like an Asian film, then you might want to look up
what the
kind
color
of
means.
like what color means.
But I feel
to
like it's
that.
not often that colors are used like that, are
Oh,
they?
they're used all the time.
So like the yellow car in Crossroads, what does that mean?
I don't know because Crossroads isn't quite that kind of film. But we watched last night in Soho, the last real
Yes.
cinephiles, and they use a lot of red and blue
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
to kind of show like, especially in the transition between reality and like, well, I guess both are reality, but in the transition between like
Memory.
memory and the present. And so like there's this like it's they're operating in the red light district. There's this like
Right.
saturated like kind of red undertone to the
lot of
memory
neon.
and like neon. It's like the idea that light is false. Basically, like
Yeah.
if you go into a club and they're like pulsing red and blue lights, people don't look the way they look in
Right.
like
Yeah.
reality.
That's why you end
kind
up with a
of-
coyote ugly.
That is exactly how that works. We're right back to that. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So a lot of films use, especially films that are trying to do something artful, no shade to Crossroads, but shade to Crossroads.
No shade to artful, but those are usually the ones I find really boring.
Use, you would like Last Night in Soho if you
Yeah.
Well, I
you
want to
would
watch
really
that one.
like
That
that
is
one.
one I want to see.
But yes, essentially lots of films use color
Okay.
in
Well,
there.
I'll have to pay attention next
Also,
time.
like stuff like if you've never noticed when you're watching a film, putting main characters in a different color than everyone else around them, so they stand out, or a color that is specific to that person. Like sometimes there'll be a character that don't wear the same outfit, but they always wear like yellow, or they kind of
okay.
wear like.
It's especially important in like action
Yeah.
cinema so that you can tell who is who.
Okay.
What they, it's like,
Yeah.
you have two guys. This is what they do really terrible in a lot of modern action movies is everyone dresses the same. So, and then they shoot it really poorly so you can't tell who's who.
Right.
So in good action films, it's like, or just films in general, it's easy to differentiate who is who by the costumes and the colors.
Okay.
So, and thus ends the segment where Toby and Josh explain colors to Aaron.
Right. Thank you.
Actually, I was going to bring up John
No, I'm
Wick
just
real
messing
quick
with you.
while we're on it, on the red and blue spectrum. John Wick.
John Wick.
Oh, that's a movie.
Oh, it's a great, one of the better fight scenes probably in American cinema is the club scene, I think, in John Wick, where
The
it's
first
like
one, yeah.
it is flashing between red and blue. It's like it's telegraphing when death is going to happen, who is on what side, and how. Like, I mean, it's neat. Like they use color for a lot of things in movies. Aaron, pay attention to color.
Okay.
There's a lot of That's
There is.
It's an awesome scene.
It's
The
an
first
awesome scene.
John Wick is fantastic.
It's a good one.
Never seen it.
You should fix that.
Yes. We're on action cinema right now, whatever.
Right.
As far as like the John Wick, the first one's great. Sequels, but I personally like Atomic Blonde more than John Wick.
Yeah,
And I
that's a
think
good
you
one.
would dig that because it kind of plays into here a little bit because it is like she's being interrogated by her bosses to figure out what actually happened on this spy mission she was on.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
like, but you would enjoy it more, I think, than Hero.
More than Hero.
It's more, it's like the action is very hard hitting. There's like a 10-minute no cuts, like a single shot take of this fight on the stairs. And it's like by the end of it, they're all just like, everyone's tired.
Yeah. I
It's
mean, and
fantastic.
maybe I would. That's the thing. Like, I always say I don't like action films, which for the most part I don't. But then you have like Drive, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
I loved that. You have Kill Bill. I liked Kill Bill. What is that face?
I know, like,
I didn't know you'd seen Kill Bill.
I've
Bill's
seen both
great.
Kill Bill.
Oh
That's
yeah, no,
awesome.
I mean, I just
Yeah.
surprised. I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah, that's exciting.
Look at me.
oh,
You watch a
Doing
movie.
things.
Aaron earning them respect points.
I mean, somebody did make me watch them in high school, but I watched them.
Okay,
Both of them back to back.
wow.
I know. I don't know how I lasted.
Where did that Aaron go with
I
that
don't know.
attention span?
It died that day.
Right that day. You watched both Kill Bill movies. It was too much good movie for you, and then you quit.
But so, I mean, there's some action films that I can get into, but
Yeah.
I never pick up an action film and I'm like, this is what I need to watch.
Similarly to Atomic Blonde, have you seen Kate?
Oh yes.
Kate is a great
Very
movie,
good.
and again uses color.
Who else is in that? Someone. The male lead is.
It's like her mentor. He's very famous.
Aaron.
No.
Oh, man.
Woody Harrelson.
Yes, Woody Harrelson's in it.
That's a
and
fantastic film.
The little girl, Miku Martineau,
Yeah.
is great also. She
Yeah.
does a really great job. She plays like a 12-year-old whose family was murdered. I have less of a term. Mary Elizabeth Winstead plays an assassin in the and basically adopts this 12-year-old to follow her around. And
It's a bit of a lone wolf and cub.
yeah, it is. It's really
situation.
it's really sweet in a way. It has a lot of like, I don't know, like really strong moments. Also, they blast Tokyo Ghoul in the background for a fight scene where she's running across like the skyscrapers in Japan, and like they're projecting Tokyo Ghoul into the building behind her. So it's like all this like, which if you don't know is like a classically very gory anime. So there's like anime blood flying everywhere as she's actually in like a physical fight. It's a pretty neat.
I love that movie.
Sounds boring.
Similar, similar film also released on Netflix. Gunpowder Milkshake is atrocious, and don't watch that one.
Yeah. That's probably the one I'd like.
Oh God. Ugh.
Well, who would have known we would have talked about so many movies this
many
year?
movies.
I like that.
We're not even talking about the movies.
Well, so like that's the thing about, and the reason I kind of wanted to touch on Asian cinema is it informs so much of our like films today.
Right.
Being like one of the other big film producing areas in the world. I mean, if you look at something like, okay, so obviously they were going to pull from Asian cinema the Shang-Chi, new Marvel movie.
No idea what you're talking about.
Shang-Chi.
Oh, the guy from Kim's Convenience.
Yes, that one.
That's
So-
a really good TV show that is really funny. Check that out on Netflix. That's where he's from.
you know, also-
Tony Leung, who's
Yeah.
in Hero, is also in Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And
He's the,
and
This is the Marvel movie.
is he not the,
that's the
is
Marvel
he not
movie.
the Mandarin?
He's the main.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy.
He's the bad
I don't
guy,
know.
yeah.
They're- Marvel.
Well, again, like I said, I think Shang-Chi's one of my favorite Marvel movies.
It's okay.
And I also really enjoy there is a wire fu scene that is beautiful and dance-like, more like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon than
The scene
like,
with Tony Leung and is it Gong Li?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I know
but
that. I know
it's
the
her.
scene you're talking about. Yeah, it's definitely that one's heavily inspired by I feel like the fight between I can't remember the names in Hero, the Shang-Chi, Shang Zi and Gong Li.
Yes.
And with all the leaves and everything, it's
Yeah.
very reminiscent of that fight in Hero and Shang-Chi.
They also use the ginkgo leaves scene as inspiration in the video game Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like, so if you don't know, the scene where it's yellow and red, where
There we go with
all the
colors.
leaves are on the ground, is because so ginkgo trees lose all their leaves over the course of like one day, basically.
Oh.
So it's a big time of the year in China and Japan where there are lots of ginkgo trees. Now it's become a thing. That scene gets referenced where there's a big sword fight in the ginkgo leaves in lots of.
Are we
Asian
talking about the
cinema.
Marvel movie still?
No, we're back to
Hero.
what did we watch this week?
okay,
Hero.
okay.
Yeah.
Like there's a big scene where the girls fight in the.
The leaves are
Yellow
falling
leaves.
in like
Oh, okay.
it switches from like an
In Hero.
orange.
Okay.
Was it switched from like an orange to a red or?
Yeah,
from,
it's like a yellow. Like the ginkgo leaves are yellow, and so it
Yeah.
kind of goes from
Yeah.
red to orange.
Yeah.
And
like throughout the fight. Yeah.
I thought we were still talking about the Marvel movie, which I will say I was pretty excited that we mentioned because then I almost got to talk about TV for a whole second.
A whole second.
Which is what I'd much rather talk about.
Okay, well, yeah. So there's, like I said, a lot of our cinema is really very much informed by samurai movies and westerns like co-inspired
Yeah.
each other. Like we get, and so this one, a lot of the color theory in this one has been picked up and done differently by others, like the idea of a single color scene, like that kind of storytelling.
That's what Marvel does, is they'll just take things from other movies and then just stuff them into their movies.
Well, listen, lots of people do that.
I know they do. I know they do, but
do.
I mean, it's usually kind of a watered down. I don't know. Whatever.
It's not as strong. But I think we have plenty on this one. Okay. I did want to ask, what's your favorite scene, Josh?
In Hero?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it.
Yeah, it's the
same one as mine.
The fight with Donnie Yen and Jet Li. Well, I like that, but I like that. When people are like ask about like some of the fights in the Matrix, I always use that scene as an example because they're fighting in their mind, and essentially, like in the Matrix, which came out a couple years before, and is it's not a wuxia film, but the fights are very wire work. It's heavily influenced by Wu Ping, who I don't know if he did Hero. He did Crouching Tiger, and he did do Iron Monkey. And like in the Matrix, they're trying to solve a problem. So the fighting is ones and zeros.
Right.
It's not an actual fight. And that's similar to how it is in Hero, where they're just fighting in their minds. Like they're running through what they're going to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they come to the conclusion, and it takes like 2 seconds to actually fight. Yeah,
to actually do the fight, which is that's a trope that gets used in a lot of obviously, and which we'll get into in a minute, in a lot of anime, but in a lot of other Asian cinema too. The idea that these guys are masters of their craft to the extent that they can recognize someone else being a master and be able to pull that into themselves. Yeah. My favorite scene, which I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, is the gosh darn candles.
Oh yeah.
There is one part where they look at the candles. There's a bunch of times where they show them, but they're essentially magical candles to kind of show the intent of the person approaching the Emperor, which is how the Emperor knows that Nameless is there to kill him and not there to help, not there to be celebrated. And the moment when the Emperor realizes it shows the candles, and there's so much power and hatred and angst radiating off of Nameless that the candles look like there is a dragon breathing on them. It's they all go one way and then all go the other, back and forth. Someone is
they're dancing they're very
really
animated,
rapidly.
and that's one one there's a lot of sequences that look like an anime. That little bit of business with the candles is definitely hyper stylized. Kind of. Yeah.
Well, and they use it again later when they start to spin. Yeah. Because his resolve is faltering. Yeah. And it's this little visual cue where they tell you what it is, and then you see the full strength of his resolve, and then you see it falter, and they use a visual representation for that, which I think is maybe too much information, but I also think is neat. You don't get to see that very often.
No, yeah, I mean, it's telling the story visually.
Yeah,
I'm liking the movie more now that I'm talking about it with Tobey. I'm enjoying this a lot.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I like the movie.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that I even really noticed the candles at all. So all that happened, I
think
must
you
have.
need to sleep and then watch these movies again.
I think maybe I was napping. It might have. Was it after a fight scene? Because
Aaron, you're supposed to take your sunglasses off when you watch the movie.
I think I watched it behind closed eyes.
Okay, well.
But don't worry, I'm never watching it again. So
we'll let it pass this time. But there's a couple really I really enjoy that scene. That scene really gets me because it's just such a powerful weight of not hatred really, just duty to kill the Emperor.
Yeah.
That then falters, and it's in some ways that is the true tragedy of the film, is that Nameless does not go through with what his hero's journey was.
Loser.
And I don't think they sell that. And again, it being kind of a propaganda film, I don't think they sell that enough. Because so the story it's based on, the guy does attempt to assassinate the Emperor and almost succeeds. But the Emperor is only wounded and lives, and the guy is then executed as a result. But it wasn't because he had a change of heart at the last moment. He just failed in the true story that it is based on. Of course, this going through the lens of often when films are made in China, they go through a censorship process due to like government constraints. And so I don't know if that's the case in this particular film, but often it will be something like, oh, well, they had a change of heart, or like this thing, like they were convinced. And that's not the reality. And I think that's what makes it kind of almost a tragedy that Nameless did not go through with it. Broken Sword was swayed because he had no home. Nameless was swayed because he had no real home. But someone like Snow, her resolve went through to the end because she had a country and did not want to be part of a different country. She wanted her country. So I don't know. I like this movie.
No.
Obviously.
I almost would have, like, if she had been in Nameless's place, would have made more dramatic film.
It would have.
That's what I mean. Like, Nameless is kind of like, it's nameless. He's
right.
Really, there's not a lot there as far as like a.
Yeah, he's a man from nowhere and nothing.
Right. Yeah. No backstory.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's also like almost like a signifier for like the goal of the film, which is to say that the emperor is all knowing and we need to all unite one.
And everybody's the same.
Yeah.
No backstory.
No.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful piece of high fantasy. And I think that we don't see a lot of great high fantasy film in American cinema, really. And I feel like I can't think of one that really touches on these like long epic stories that are based in history but have like these fantastical elements the way that like this one does.
Our history is so short compared to China. It's like, we have our main mythology is basically you have what American Revolution era, and then you have Westerns.
Well, and so much of the mythology we make things about is borrowed, right? So we borrow from Greek mythology. If we want to make an epic film, we borrow from like Roman mythos. Like, but
you just look at like superheroes, like Superman's. He's part Moses and Hercules. He's taken from. I mean, that's kind of what represents America, is where you take so much from everywhere else. All of our, we're a boiling pot, and so all of our influences and all of our art can be very eclectic.
Right. Our big folk tale is the Western, but so much of the Western is not truly the story of the West. Because it came about in like the 50s.
It's very romanticized.
Very romanticized. It's also very male.
And what's funny is the Western didn't really become gritty, grounded, like it's still very theatrical, but in the, when Leone and all the spaghetti Westerns in the 60s and early 70s, those actually, you could tell it was down and dirty and like people, rugged faces, and they were worn down and it was dirty and people were savage. And, at the same time, there's a lot of beauty in those films, but it took Italians to take our main genre of film, because I mean, really, for the first 50 years of cinema, westerns were it. Yeah, like that was, most of the not most, but a lot of films were westerns, and that was that was equivalent to what superhero films are today. As westerns were in the 30s, 40s, and mostly in the 30s and 40s. It started to die out in the 50s, but so I think it's interesting that Italians ended up really making the best westerns in my opinion. There's really good ones, like the Gunfighter is really terrific with Gregory Peck, but
actually using that kind of as a segue into Vampire Hunter D. So you mentioned Shane.
Yes.
Vampire Hunter D ends pretty much the exact same way as Shane does, which goes back to my mention that the American Western and the Japanese samurai film are pretty much intrinsically linked.
Yeah.
They inform each other.
Thank you, Akira Kurosawa.
Yes. Yes. So in such a way that there are several animes that are made to emulate American Westerns, but also pull in a lot of the samurai film stuff, which American Westerns do anyway. Yeah. So Vampire Hunter D is a pretty good example of this. You have the Lone Rider that comes into town and does this stuff. Another one is Cowboy Bebop, which was a total meant to honor the Jazz Age, but also the American Western. So like it's got this. space cowboy kind of feel to it. There are several others. Trigun, which features Bash the Stampede, who is also obviously like very American Western inspired. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of a segue into Vampire Hunter D, which we'll start with Aaron this time. Aaron, how'd you feel about, is this the first Japanese anime film that you've ever watched?
First and last, yes.
First and last, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame because Ghost in the Shell is much better and you should probably give that a try.
Maybe you should have
But
picked that one.
everyone has seen Ghost in the Shell and Akira, and I wanted to pick something that is
more under the radar.
More under the radar, and also still a classic for Japanese animated films that came to America. And also something that was not a Miyazaki film because they're cute and warm and fuzzy, but I wanted something a little bit grittier.
I'd argue that Vampire Hunter D is probably a better example of an anime than Ghost in the Shell and Akira, because those films are more influenced by Western films. They're more influenced by stuff like Blade Runner or the writings of Philip K. Dick and William Gibson.
They're sci-fi.
Yeah, than something like this, which is more, like just in the animation style too. Like they go and I don't remember a whole lot in Akira where they like, when in an anime they go like gets really big, emotions get like they're about ready to fight or attack, and then the background goes like, and I'm making
noises.
I'm making noises and motions with my
gestures.
hands, but they're the background goes very crazy, and it's like because it's a reflection of their emotions, and so Vampire Hunter D is a better. If this was your first anime, it's a better example of what to expect out of most anime.
What anime is.
I say that as someone who doesn't really watch anime.
Yes.
But
it is though.
Yeah.
It's a better example of what makes anime great. How'd you feel?
Well, quite the opposite. For me, and it might be the kind of the same thing with Hero, where I said, the where it's not that real, and I lose interest. All their fight scenes, that's one of the main points that I just don't enjoy. I guess is it's so emotional that it's annoying.
I get that.
For me.
So
like it's like okay, here it comes, a big fight scene. I'm like, yes. I was excited when it finally was like a fight scene because, whatever. I thought it'd pick up. But then it's like they're just screaming and the girl is like whiny about everything, and it just makes me not want to watch it.
But did you like the non-action sequences, the non-fight, because there's a lot of things I would think you would like, because it's a vampire hunter film, so you do have he's not Dracula, probably maybe for rights reasons. But he's very Dracula.
Well, no, he is Alucard.
Oh, he is.
He
Okay,
is
sorry,
Alucard.
I missed that.
He is the son of Dracula.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So just FYI, it's D for Dracula, which is his last name.
Well, I did.
Sorry, big spoilers. That comes up at the very end of the film, but
I did like. There was one scene where he walks into, I think it was like a cave or something, and there's like all these monsters.
Yeah.
And it made me think of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Because you have like at the end of Cabin in the Woods, they're like walking through the hallway and you see all the monsters and stuff. So, there were parts that I guess it was okay. I don't know. Both of these films are like the epitome of films that I know they're good. I know people love them. Not completely bashing them. They're just not for me. And it's hard. Like, I find it painful to pay attention to. I also just don't like animated films that much. I don't like war films. I don't like fighting films for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know. That type of film, like fighting, war, animation.
So,
I like Toy Story, but
not really film theory related, because we'll get away from that for a minute. How did you feel about Magnus Lee? He's the head vampire. If someone asks if you want to become a vampire, then there's a scale of the kinds of vampires that there are.
Lothos.
Exactly.
So that was my answer.
That's your answer. You want to become Lothos. So
he's funny. He's bad. Yeah. That's from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by the way. The original movie.
Is that the Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah. No, that Lothos is the main bad guy. Amelin is Pee Wee Herman, which has, by the way,
No. Oh. Not again.
I was just going to say,
Not
no, I'm
again.
not going to do it.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to do it. But one of the best death scenes ever is Amelin, Pee Wee Herman, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is kind of, I mean, they fight in that, but that's totally different.
Yeah. The scale
It's a
of
good vampire
vampires
movie.
goes from you're immortal, but you have to eat people, and you are like basically a normal person and can't go out in the sunlight, right? Like that's the minimum for vampires. The maximum for vampires, I would argue, is Magnus Lee.
Yeah.
Like beyond Dracula, beyond like most like Anne Rice kind of vampires, unless you're talking like
Was he
Queen
like
of
the
the
main
Damned.
sexist guy in this movie?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Well,
yeah.
no, that's the guy from the blonde one from the town, or the big wrinkly one that lives
I
in
don't
the
know.
castle.
That's like,
He's
bring
like
me the girl.
Yes.
She's going to be mine.
Yes, it's him.
Okay.
He
I
can
thought he was
do
gross.
mind control. He can fly. He can become like other creatures. He has a like force of radiative power that goes out miles around his castle.
That's too much for a vampire.
Lives forever. He's like 10,000 years old.
Okay.
It's a lot. So it's
Yeah,
like
that's a
that's the
lot.
scale. Like, and I feel like if someone's like, you could be a vampire, but you have to be Magnus Lee. I think
That's a
it's
little
like,
OP.
I'll take it though.
Yeah.
Like.
Definitely OP. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess.
Does he still have to kill people?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think they can technically drink without killing people because he does bite Doris and she does not die.
This is true.
Doris was very annoying.
Oh, poor Doris.
I know.
Doris
I can't help it.
is like a low-key Bamf, though. She does, like, kill a werewolf.
No, I
And,
mean,
like,
I like, she was cool.
when Doris is in a situation that Doris can handle, Doris is not whiny. When the like blonde creeper from town corners her in a like alley and tries to like assault her, she kicks him in the nards and she gets away
Nards.
and tells him that don't you ever speak to me ever again, basically, and leave me and my family alone. Like, if she can handle stuff, she's totally normal and competent. She cannot handle a 10,000-year-old vampire that is threatening to kill her family if she does not become
And
his bride.
I get that. Which,
you know,
tying it back, is kind of what Buffy the Vampire Slayer is like as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
The original movie, because you have the powerful, and she's
Yeah.
just, I don't know how to explain her, but she's
we're talking the
a
movie.
little bit of a ditzy girl.
Yeah,
This is the OG Buffy.
Yeah,
But
this is
she's
1985.
Buffy wasn't whiny.
Doris
No, no, the
is
whole
Doris-
only whiny.
Okay, so this is-
when-
so
when
maybe-
she can't handle it.
Maybe I just saw the movie differently, because what I saw was an animated movie about a girl who was very whiny and annoying, and a main guy who was sexist and really gross, and it felt very predatory.
It was very
That's
predatory.
what I felt about the whole movie,
I mean, it is very predatory. I think that
but not in a fun way.
I think the choice of like whiny,
like vampire predator
wow.
way.
We're learning a lot about Aaron today.
yeah. I think that the like what you're seeing is a little bit of like how they voice women in anime.
It
Yeah.
may
It
be.
is like
It's,
natural.
it's very like high, cutesy
It's very
kinda-
high pitched and very
Yeah.
cutesy. Whereas like, I mean,
um,
well, I mean,
But-
that's the thing. Like,
but can we talk about Dee's hand that has a face?
yeah.
So like,
Like I said, this is very much in like
This is an anime, yeah.
yeah. So I remember seeing it in the beginning, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So his hand has a face.
And a voice
But
and a
then-
separate consciousness.
Yes. So then it gets cut off, and it's eating dirt.
Becomes the thing from,
Yeah. And it has its own. And I don't know that the scene of it eating dirt was. I don't know if I liked it or like it was just kind of ridiculous. So I liked it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
But-
like Dee's hand. I enjoy its personality. It's kind of a perv, but other than that, it's pretty okay. It is. There's not a better way to say it besides that.
I don't know. This movie for me, and maybe it's just how these type of movies are set up, but it just I don't know. It was
They're
like
very
pervy
outrageous.
and
Yeah.
outrageous. And
It is very pervy.
They
But
have the
I'll
girls in
agree with
like
that.
barely any clothes, but all the guys are completely covered and in cloaks.
So that's called fan service, and it's a very common thing in anime.
I don't like that.
I
either.
don't love it either, but it is a pretty common trope is to have like a really powerful, like what is essentially a powerful female character, like that is dressed like a bimbo, and I don't really know
Can we
how to
say
say
bimbo?
it. But I think we can say
Yeah, why
bimbo.
would we not?
That's not a bad
okay.
word.
I mean, it's common.
not a bad word.
It's common across
Yeah.
comics.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you
Well,
have that with
Superheroes.
Yeah.
well, superheroes in American cinema. I
Yeah.
mean, it definitely
I would
is.
say like, I mean, it goes. I don't know. It goes both ways. Where I mean, I'm sure, especially I think. I mean, I don't watch a lot of anime, but it seems like there's a lot more. It's a little more balanced now, where there's a lot more attention paid to how sexy the male characters are now as well.
Okay.
It
I
is.
think in the comic books too, it's generally it's a little better balanced these days. It used to be like, especially in the 90s, like women had ridiculous proportions.
Or Starfire.
Yeah.
Back in like the 80s, so Teen Titans Starfire back in the 80s, like Homegirl had a like V-neck down to her like navel,
Yeah.
and like was basically only so it's like
wearing
we've-
like a
we've
shoestring.
had development,
Right.
yeah, and was basically like just there to be Robin's girlfriend, and so
Like Batman and Robin?
yeah, Robin's the leader of the Teen Titans,
Oh.
and
But they revamped her, and she
She's
has
different.
I didn't know Robin had a
normal
girlfriend.
kind of superhero outfit now, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that I think that sometimes that does just distract me from the movie as well. Not like it's supposed to, but in the sense like I said, this one it just seemed kind of gross and predatory
But
in
not
a
in a
way
fun way.
that I did
Not in a
not
fun
in a
way.
fun way that I didn't enjoy. That
Yeah.
and I think some of it was the dialogue too of Magnus or whatever.
yeah.
Was that his name? Some of his dialogue and the way he spoke about her and stuff, it just was like just very not appropriate.
Well, and that's the point, right? Like he
Yeah.
is the villain, and then you have
yeah.
lots of people.
I just feel like there's other ways, like,
Yeah.
I need her blood to survive.
No,
like, that would work.
He wants to marry her.
it's not what he wants to do.
He doesn't want to kill her. He wants to marry her.
Yeah.
That's the point. Is he's like,
He should say that.
yeah, he does.
I mean,
He says multiple times, "I'm going to make her my bride," and like,
See, that's creepier than I would like
Alliance.
to marry her.
yeah.
Again, you got the
Well,
villain.
she doesn't really have a choice in the matter. So yeah, forced marriage is pretty messed up.
that's what I like about something like this is that it's as kind of silly and fantastical as it is. It's still the bad guys are still really bad. There's still a lot of gray area with D.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very much like Clint Eastwood, Man with No Name. That's another kind of West
Yes.
where everything's more intertwined. Especially in the last 20, 30 years, and
Down to the giant cowboy hat.
yeah. I mean, he's just
Right.
he's in a
That's
duster
true.
and a cowboy hat. I mean,
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
put him in Old West 1885, and he'd look just fine,
Right.
aside from the
Right.
talking hand.
I will say that Vampire Hunter D is based like something like 13,000 years in the future or something. It's opposed to like nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah, and I like
I don't
that.
know.
I like
like
that
it.
aspect of it. That it's like a Western sci-fi,
Yes.
Right.
and it's like the castles and
Like his horse is a robot.
yeah, and it's like there's like Western tropes from the past in both the Japanese and American storytelling, and then but it just has kind of out there sci-fi stuff too. That makes it pretty fun concoction.
Also, like the idea that so basically everyone in the town has a southern accent.
Yeah,
So I think it's interesting that
Is it-
that was their choice for the voice actors. Doris doesn't have one, nor does Dee.
so we watched the American dub.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've seen the Japanese dub.
They have-
Do they have similar kind of like?
They have like a regional accent,
Regional
like a small. So obviously, like we have here, people from small rural areas will have a slightly different accent than people from
The city.
the city, and so they kind of lean into that. In the Japanese, I believe.
So, like horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sidebar. Is that
Well, you
Asian
can still
film?
talk.
I mean, is that
Yeah, there's 80s. They're 80s.
no Asian?
Asian.
Asian horror film?
Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like Pulse and the original Ring and.
Yeah, Ring
Is
is
that Asian?
Asian cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need that.
You needed to like some Asian cinema.
Have you seen
No.
the original?
Have you-
That's what I was going to go
Have
into.
you seen like the original Japanese Ringu? Or
So that's what I was going to talk about. Is I don't think it's that I hate Asian cinema, because I like
trying to dig out of
Asian.
this hole?
I like Asian horror films,
Okay.
like the original Ring You, or Pulse, or Tale of Two Sisters.
That's good.
Which
that was
is
Korean, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I don't know, but anyway, it's Asian cinema.
Okay. So like that, I love that movie.
Yeah.
So I think it's, like I said, it goes back to, for me, it's just, I don't like animation and I don't like war
Martial
movies
arts.
and martial arts. It's just nothing that, like, I don't like the Expendables and,
I don't either.
well, yeah, but for different reasons. I don't like, I'm just saying like that type of movie.
Yeah.
I don't normally dig at all.
Don't judge action films by the Expendables.
Well, it's one of the few I've seen, so.
That was the exact the example I was saying when they don't costume people properly and then you can't tell who's who.
Yeah, because they're all wearing like black military, not military, but like
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 SWAT.
SWAT.
Yeah. Vests and tactical gear.
So again, with color, that's one of the things that I think is interesting about Vampire Hunter D is that he is like he's a vampire. He's a calf vampire, and like he's supposed to be like this dark character, and it's something that you only really get in like anime and specifically anime from this era. He's in bright blue. Like his duster's bright blue. He's got all this color going on, and typically in male characters, in things in general, you just don't get bright colors to like draw your eye. And I think they do that for a similar reason that we do costuming, that they do costuming in live action is they want to put him in front of a sea of people and you'd be like, that's
right.
You know,
very noticeable.
This is the guy.
Also, he has a face on his hand, so that helps.
It does help. And it talks, you know.
Eats dirt.
I think only to him. I don't remember the hand ever talking to anyone else.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it only talks to him. It is voiced by a different person. The hand's funny. He's got like almost like a surfer-y like vibe to him, which is weird considering he seems to be like a demon hand. I don't remember the story behind his hand, but
that was probably my favorite part of the movie is the demon hand.
Yeah.
Or the whatever hand. Kind of a little funny, but in a ridiculous kind of way.
It's supposed to be.
Oh, I don't think they meant that to be like serious.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't want
to know. All right, Josh, what do you think then?
A Vampire Hunter D?
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I'd seen it years ago. I had a friend that really liked it, so he made me watch it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, like anime is not my
forte.
Yes. Preference. I mean, I'm not big into animation just in general. It's not. I mean, I like animation. Like Iron Giant's one of my favorite movies, and I love Ghost in the Shell and Akira, and you know.
Well, I think the thing you get with a lot of Japanese anime is that they budget constraints are like huge. Yeah, and so they're trying to make a feature-length film. They like spend it all in like 3 or 4 scenes, and then everything else is really sparse.
Yeah, it's very rare you get something like Akira, which is like some. There's some frames where they're hand drawing like 100 or 240 frames per second of film, and it's absurd the amount of detail that goes in and the time. Yeah. So it's, I mean, there's just so much anime too. Mm-hmm. Like it's, I can't keep up with it.
Well,
even if I wanted to, I couldn't keep up with it.
There are series that are like that. Like there are several series where it's like they'll have like 2 episodes a season that are like the most beautiful animation ever.
Yeah.
And the rest of the series is like,
stick figures.
We tried. Like it happens. But yes, continue.
So, I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I did enjoy it a lot. Like I said, I like it's very anime. I enjoyed the designs of the characters and the locations. And I like how, just kind of wacky the story is. It is kind of like, it's so big, it's ridiculous, but that's part of the charm of it is that it's something that if you can't pull this off in live action unless you grounded it in a way. Yeah. And that's the beauty of animation is that, the only limits are what you can do, what you can think of, and how good your artists are.
There's been a really big push lately for like real live action forms of anime films, and it just is bad every time. I have not seen a good one yet, and not like animated film. Well, it's happened with Disney stuff too. Yeah. But like a lot of like the classic anime, like Japanese anime from the 90s, has been getting remade, and they're all awful. I did like the Ghost in the Shell, the live action. I've not seen that.
I enjoyed it. I thought they generally respected the original story, and there's whole scenes lifted straight out of the movie.
Yeah,
That's one I enjoy, but yeah, there generally when you try to make an animated film live action or a manga, like I can't like Scott Pilgrim is the only thing I can think that actually.
Scott Pilgrim is good, but
because it goes full into the anime. I mean, into the manga. It's a very difficult thing to do properly without just seeming. It's hard to get people to buy into it.
Well, I think you can't do it without spending a crazy amount on a budget.
Yeah.
Lately, a lot of them have been like Netflix money grabs,
like the
and
Cowboy
it's
Bebop.
and it's just you can't make something feel the way that an animation feels without spending a nonsense amount of money making like it possible. You know, or you end up with like what is effectively cheap wire foo and like bad costumes.
I'd really argue the best live action anime film is The Matrix.
It is. I mean,
it's not based on an anime, but it's heavily influenced by the style, the way that they choreograph and shoot. Just pretty much any scene is very. I mean, it's not strictly limited to anime. Those movies are influenced by a lot of things, but they are definitely heavily influenced by anime, and especially in the action sequences.
It does feel like, I mean, The Matrix feels like an anime. So, fun fact, I have one. Yoshitaka Amano is the designer of Vampire Hunter D. Vampire Hunter D started as a light novel, which is kind of like essentially like a short paperback novel that has some pictures in it. It's not like a manga.
Okay.
It started out as a light novel and then became a manga, but the guy who originally drew it is Yoshitaka Amano. He is not the writer, but he is the character designer for it. So he did all the drawings and that kind of stuff. He is also responsible for, if you've ever played and enjoyed a Final Fantasy game, he does their logo design for everything. He did a lot of their early character designs. He also illustrated some of the Sandman novels.
Okay.
And his stuff is like heavily influenced. If you've seen his drawings and original, like his drawings and stuff, is very like Art Nouveau inspired, which is interesting because Vampire Hunter D kind of gives that vibe, but not really.
Especially like in the architecture. Like it definitely has that vibe.
Yeah. I think it's kind of neat, but to have, again, like so much stuff influencing other things. He has a very like influence by like Art Nouveau and like woodblock printings from like Asian art history. So.
That's a kind of a, good contrast to something like Hero, whereas like Vampire Hunter D takes so many elements from various cultures and mediums, whereas Hero is straight just a Chinese
movie.
That's nothing else coming from anywhere. There's no influences from any American or European art or film. It's just strictly Chinese.
Well, I think that one's one of the neat things about Vampire Hunter D is again, in a very opposite of Hero, the characters are super developed.
Yeah.
D is a very developed character, even being that Lone Ranger kind of, and you get more of that from the hand, actually. Like you get to hear, it's like, it's a storytelling device about D's past and D's who he is as a person, is he has essentially an evil Jiminy Cricket attached to his body that's telling him about his darker desires that he is fighting.
It's a creative way to get a lot of exposition out. And it's also kind of like, D's such a badass, he can't talk about it, but his hand's going to.
Right.
Yeah. That's part of it. But also, like, his hand says some truly terrible things.
Yeah.
That D is
like his devil on his shoulder,
actively resisting, like
in his hand,
drinking Doris's blood.
Yeah,
he's trying his best to be a good person while saddled with like this burden of being half vampire. And they didn't really explain how that works for him or how he survives. But kind of this idea of like, I think it's neat to have that as his like storytelling device, like a storytelling device to like learn more about him. Did you like anything about it?
I liked his hand.
You liked his hand?
Mm-hmm.
Did you like anything else? Was there a scene that you liked?
Where he walks, the one that
monsters?
made me think of, Did
you like the Lamia, the giant snake ladies?
Oh, I mean,
it
was interesting.
They were really cool.
Yeah.
It definitely had a Dracula's Brides vibe. Like, it kind of, I mean, it came out before Bram Stoker's Dracula, but definitely, I don't know if Francis Ford Coppola saw that, but definitely reminded me of the scene from Bram Stoker's when his brides are seducing Harker.
Yeah.
I dug that a lot.
It's kind of, so Vampire Hunter D is also kind of Beowulf. In a way. So the idea of like, he goes to solve this one problem and then gets distracted by being seduced for a long time.
Well, I've not seen that either.
It's
a
classic book.
pretty much
I know
the
it's a
first
book.
story.
Yeah.
I
mean,
heard-
like it's of course it is almost Beowulf because Beowulf was like like the story
Right.
we have
Yeah.
existing from.
I thought you meant there was a movie.
There is a movie.
There's
Oh.
And it
There's
actually
many
is
different
there.
movies.
Yeah, it's actually
Oh,
really
okay.
similar to the Beowulf movie that really bothers me, which is the one that uses like
the Robert Zemeckis CG.
yeah, the one where it's like they're
that everybody
they're
hated.
animated, but they're like
I remember.
it's not a bad movie. It just like it does the uncanny valley thing to me. And
Oh yeah, they hadn't
grosses
quite
me
hit
out.
it yet, and it's like going in like that. Like it's like so the movie was super expensive, and they're CGing everybody, and it's all motion capture.
Mm-hmm.
But they CG Anthony Hopkins, but he still looks like Anthony Hopkins,
Right.
and Angelina Jolie still looks like why just shoot it live action?
Right.
It feels like
It's
True.
really silly.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I think their main excuse was because they wanted Ray Winstone, but Ray Winstone was too old.
Right.
They're like, we're just going to CG everything then because we can't get young Ray Winstone. I was like,
Yeah.
we'll just get somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Beowulf ran over.
I haven't seen Beowulf, but the snake ladies, that was the three ladies that were kind of like
yeah,
sing-songy.
yeah. No, sirens or Medusas. Yeah.
For sure. Reminds me of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ladies down in the
lake or
in the
the
lake.
creek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Singing
It
the
was a lake, yeah.
You and Me and the Devil Makes Three,
Yeah.
which weirdly is what I would sing to my niece to put her to sleep. My oldest niece, so I don't know why.
I
but
like that you've seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
oh, I've seen
That's a
it
great movie.
probably at least
Yeah.
twice.
That's a
Yeah,
good
we
one.
used to watch it
That's
at
a good movie.
school, which is weird.
But yeah, so I forgot about that part. I did like that because it reminded me of that and it made sense. And
Again, like it pulls from everything, right? So
Right.
that's Greek mythology. They're essentially sirens or harpies.
Right.
They're calling him in to them be murdered. And then just the sheer force of his manliness apparently saves him from being devoured by these women snakes.
D was the original one, Ron Swanson.
So that's it, right? Again, it's like that. The idea of like the lone, it's very much a cowboy movie.
Yeah.
He's such
could
a
see that,
man that they
100%.
cannot take like.
guess what other
can't
kind of
take it.
movies I don't like?
Well, cowboy movies.
Yep, there you go.
I enjoy the Lamia. I also like. I think one of the better characters in the series is Magnus Lee's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the half blood that refuses
Mm-hmm.
to admit that she's a half blood.
I felt like she didn't know she was.
Didn't know, but
Did
then
I-
she's told,
Right.
and still is like, nope.
Right. Well, I mean, if you go through life living thinking you're part of the royal family, basically is what they
Yeah.
are, then find out that you're not. Like it would be hard to accept.
Yeah.
But she's nice in the end, isn't she?
I mean,
Didn't she
just
end up helping in the end?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
But she just stays there and dies
Well,
because she won't accept
wasn't that nice of her?
There is more like there could
She
be
didn't chase them
there
down.
could be more of life for her, and it's
Right.
just like I won't live knowing that I'm a half
Well, yeah.
handed. Like I don't know. It's I really liked her character because she was not really out to kill Doris. She was just out to prevent Doris from marrying her father.
Right.
Which is like an interesting character motivation. So when she finds out that Doris doesn't want to marry her father, it's all of a sudden like we're gonna have a team up girl buddy movie, and then
Right,
it
that's
gets cut
true, yeah.
short immediately. Like
Crossroads, yeah.
I would have liked
This is
it
true.
had the movie actually gone that way
Don't say it.
a little bit.
I don't know. All roads lead back
To
to Crossroads.
I mean,
If there's two things,
I brought it
probably
on
technically
myself.
true. You did bring it on yourself.
Yeah, I know.
two quotes for Aaron. I haven't seen it, and all roads lead back to Crossroads.
And I fell asleep.
No, that was just your movie.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay, well, rude.
All right. So I guess that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you, Tobey, for joining us and making me watch these movies that are people love. They're fabulous to other people. Can we just cut that? Can I just not talk about that?
No.
I like this. This is going well.
I'd like to
Anyways.
say thank you, Toby, for picking these and bringing your knowledge of Asian cinema to us.
Yeah,
and our audience.
And that's the thing. Like they're so.
No,
if
don't
I ever-
piggyback on me. You hate Asian cinema.
No, I don't hate Asian cinema. I love Asian cinema horror movies. I don't like war movies and fighting movies and animation movies.
Sure.
But what has been nice is learning about them because I didn't know all that stuff. And even the whole teaching me about my collars like I'm in kindergarten. I mean, that is interesting. I never.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know,
Funny
it'll be neat to see when I watch the next movie, see if it's a thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so thank you, Tobey, for joining us on this episode. Josh, you want to talk about?
So our Real Cinephiles Club, we're going to be showing Unforgiven in August. It'll be on August 11th at 6 p.m. It's going to be at the library itself. We have a nice projector and a pretty good little sound system set up. So it should be a good time. We'll have snacks and we'll talk about the movie afterwards.
That's awesome. So I think next is what we're going to do next episode. We're going to go back to our regular format.
Just me and you.
That's right. And so for you, I've chosen The Squid in the Well.
Okay.
It is like a coming of age type story about a family drama. Yeah. Which honestly is some of my favorite kind of movies. So this is like a peek into, if I pick a movie, this is all movies aside, even Crossroads. Like this is my type of movie. Although I will say Crossroads delves into some of this kind of stuff, just so you know. But this is like the epitome of kind of movies I really enjoy.
Cool. And similar, this was not planned, but a similar family drama I've chosen for you is The Godfather.
Okay. I feel like that's a different kind of drama.
I mean, it's a story of a family that just happened to be in the mafia.
Oh, okay. I feel like there's more murder.
Probably.
I hope so.
There's more murder than Squid in the Whale.
Well, yes.
But
I don't think there's any murder.
The Godfather, I mean, it's generally considered the best movie ever made. So
by you?
By everyone.
Oh, okay.
Much.
Okay.
Pretty much anytime they do like a poll of critics or filmmakers about what the Sound and Vision poll comes out every 10 years. I think there's going to be one coming out later this year. And I think the last time in 2012 it was Citizen Kane was number 1 and Godfather was like number 2 or 3. I think Godfather's going up number 1 this time.
Okay.
But yeah, generally it's always in the top 2 or 3 or 5. Like it's always somewhere in there. It's one of those movies you have to see before you die.
I guess I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
But it is long, right?
It is 2 hours and I think 52 minutes.
So we're like
long.
on,
It doesn't
like Green Mile.
It doesn't feel long once you get wrapped up in it.
Multiple VHSs.
Yes, it was a 2-tape VHS. It was up there with the Titanics and the Dr. Zhivago's. But it's it won all the Oscars. It's you can't beat it. It's a really fantastic film. So I'm gonna take it personally if you don't like it.
I wouldn't take anything personally, but we'll see. So I mean I'm excited in the fact that it's also it's such a popular and like great movie.
Yeah, I mean it's like
it's
a pop culture cornerstone,
right?
And so there'll be like references you'll understand now,
right? And I'll be able to say I've seen it.
Yeah,
nothing else. I mean, if
you hate the movie, let's be like,
right.
Yeah, I saw The Godfather. So what?
Yeah, I just won't say, but I hated it.
Yeah, because then you'll.
But maybe I won't hate it.
I sincerely hope you don't hate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not making any promises, so. So I guess that is it for this episode.
Yeah.
We hope that you join us next time when we talk about The Godfather and Squid in the Well. So until next time, I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And this has been Real Opposites. And I like bees.